Hi everyone and welcome back. So after doing a baselining code of udemy.com or airbnb.com, because I'm going to create some videos which are common for both Airbnb and Udemy because they are common for the architecture standpoint, and I'm using same common architecture, the except the services will be different for Airbnb and Udemy clone. So I'm going to use some videos common for both the playlist. So what we are talking about is a simplified architecture here. We are using the Next.js and we are using NextAuth for the authentication. So this NextAuth is really popular library for managing the session for the Next.js SSR. Okay, and we have already decided that we are going to use Auth0. I mean, you can just use a credential provider also and do the authentication by username password, but we already have delegated this user management stuff to Auth0. Auth0 is actually a third-party provider that will give us the session, because we are going to plug the Auth0 mechanism with the NextAuth, and NextAuth understand how to enable the authentication by taking user login screen to the Auth0 and allowing him to enter the username password, because the user already created on Auth0, so it will create a session. And here is our Next.js API routes. So we are going to use the Next.js API routes to talk to the external service. So there are many different ways when you talk about this architecture design. There are many considerations. So what you can do is most of the application we build with the simple Next.js, NextAuth and Auth0, and we don't need these external services. What we can do is we just write these Next.js APIs, and those APIs can directly do the insert, update, delete and all those different operations by accessing the data through the Prisma ORM, type ORM or something, right? Prisma is popular with the Next.js because it gives you the Prisma client that you can use to do the insert, update, delete or query the database, and there is a Prisma schema you are creating. So that is a kind of a monolith we end up building, because there is a Next.js which is rendering the your front-end components, the client-side components, and in the server side API routes, you will be doing all the processing and the logic in the same application. So either we write a one single monolith, I will say monolith because it contains your client-side rendered code, the components, server-side components, and your API routes. And API routes are doing insert, update, delete using Prisma to your database. So it's like a single application. But maybe in future I'm not using Next.js. I'm using CSR, client-side rendered framework, or maybe a Svelte.js or SvelteKit or something. How should I be able to decouple these things? So that's why it's better to create these services as a standalone external services. So what I'm doing here is I don't want my Next.js APIs to talk to the individual service. That's why I created a simple HTTP proxy. That proxy will just expose a common endpoint, and we can just, by putting the path route API v1 auth, will take you to the auth service. API v1 let's say the course manager will take you to the course manager service. It's like a simple Node.js middleware which is able to rewrite the path based on the path prefix you are adding, that we have already used at many places. So this is the Next.js API that is going to talk to the proxy, but we need to have some authentication token that will be provided by the NextAuth server side session, because this is server side API routes. In a server side session we have access token. That access token we can pass as a authorization header, and the same will be forwarded to the target service, and that target service will validate the token against Auth0. Okay, is it valid, is it correct, not expired, everything is good. And inside this next auth token, Auth0 token, we are going to embed the critical information. I mean that we need to deal with the external service, like the role, like the user ID, which is not a secret information. I mean, we can expose the role, we can expose the user ID, and based on that user ID and role, the authentication logic can be placed in the external different services based on the role, based on the user ID, based on its association. We can decide that this data needs to be exposed or this data needs to be blocked for that user. All those different kind of exceptions we can throw, and these Next.js APIs will check. Okay, status code is like 401, 403, deal it differently. Okay, so that is what we are doing with the help of this. So this is what the end user will see while accessing the Next.js application. Okay, so maybe you can create a two different application. One is the end user application, one is the admin dashboard application, but here we don't want it to do lots of stuff. We will just create a single application, and the data we can populate using maybe APIs. So here NextAuth session contains the token, and that token, when you decode the token, that contains the role, and that role we are forwarding to the respective service to validate. Because here in Auth0, when you do the sign in, we will populate the role, but when you do the sign in, we will enrich the token with the role. So you are either a course creator, you are either a guest, or you are either a system admin. So if you are a creator, we will allow you to create a course, update a course, delete a course, manage your courses. If you are a guest, you can just navigate, see the course, get the course details, you can search a particular course, and if that is a free, you can actually access that particular course. This is how a simple course creator role will be there once you are populating the information through the Auth0. So in Auth0 you will already have these roles pre-populated, and when you are actually returning the token, once you do the Auth0 sign in, that token will already be enriched with the role information. So at the end, what all things we need to build? I don't want to build a different interface. We can manage the same thing with the simple Next.js application based on the role. Because once you initialize the session, we will get to know, okay, what is the role, and based on the role we can actually do the internal routing and show the two different console, two different screens to the end user. If it is a course creator, he will see the dashboard where you will get a features to upload, download, update the course. If you are a guest, your screen will be the default, that you are just navigating and surfing or browsing the set of courses. And we will be creating all these services together, like a course service, order service, course manager service, user preference service. That is in the context of Udemy. But let's say when we are doing an Airbnb, then these services will be a little different, like property listing services, order service, payment service, booking service. All these things will be there. Okay, so let's see about the architecture, like what all different complexity we are going to resolve by understanding about it.